What made the weird kid in your school the weird kid? I'm sure he was an undiagnosed autistic kid. We were in middle school, 1994, and he was obsessed with Dragon Ball. This kid liked to run around punching and kicking people, saying he was one of the anime characters. One day some asshole started to bully him. The weird kid scratched him in the arms, neck and face while hissing and growling like a cat. He got caught jacking off to Pokemon porn in the library. Word got around by the time he transferred schools. He put his flaccid dick through the top of a tetherball pole. Just climbed it during recess and decided to pull his pants down and do that. Pretty weird day in middle school. Wrote a 50-page essay on anime body pillows, including an interview with a guy who owned one, for a school project on the best invention ever Reddit, correcting spelling mistakes. Bought a red M&M from my friend for $10. Thought it was ecstasy and spent all day acting like someone who had drank a love potion from an old-time gypsy caricature. He used to suck his own dick on the back of the bus. My school didn't have a weird kid, which is unfortunate because I could have really used a friend. Matt was a friend of mine in elementary school. He was considered weird because he had a fascination with video games and graphic design and just general nerd shit. I remember he built a custom skeleton and texture for a character to play as in Unreal Tournament. It had inverted knees, ran really low to the ground, and a fully animated tail. It was the coolest thing. Well, back in the 90s in our school that shit was ballsy bully material. I never bullied him, but to my everlasting shame I never once stood up for him as a friend or even a decent human being. He doesn't do anything with computers anymore. He has taken over his GPAS farm. Noble, but he had so much passion and talent and I was party to killing that passion. He wrote his name in shit in the bathroom in elementary school. It followed him throughout school, and now years later I randomly heard his name in a conversation and just thought back to that smeared shit signature. Maybe he really didn't do it like he claimed, but he was a jittery weird squirrely little fucker anyways, so if he was framed then the real perpetrator picked the perfect person. At lunchtime, he would do the Naruto run from his classroom to the cafeteria. Weirdo was first in line for lunch every day. He was autistic and had a painful reaction to loud noises. Bullies would squeak their shoes around him and he'd cry out. The one confrontation I ever involved myself in, I'd been bullied as well, but that was more emotional bullying. Other kids had physical bullying going on, was when several kids were standing around him. He was on the ground holding his ears, and they were all squeaking their shoes. He was screaming, crying and flinching every time they did it. One of my classmates, a bit of a jock, but a nice guy, ran in there and slammed one of the kids into a locker. The bullies started to square up around him, and myself and my friend group saw what was going on, and squared up along the jock. Once the bullies saw they were evenly matched they moved on. All of us, including the autistic kid, got in trouble. It was a small school. In my graduating class of about 45 we only had 3 social circles: jocks, preps, smokers, and other. I was in the other group, which was basically computer geeks, transfer students, and artistic kids. We all got along, and even now, more than 15 years later, I can't think of a single kid in my class who would be considered a bully. The class 1 grade ahead was awful, and 1 grade below was about 50% cruel and 50% awesome. This kid stabbed people with pens and called them shanks. His favorite target was pretty girls. He would literally chase them around the school holding his pen in the air and screaming, "I'm gonna shank you." I've been shanked a couple of times and it low-key hurts and would leave a stupid pen mark on your clothes or skin. He smelled like shit. Literally. I don't know if it was a chemical imbalance or he just didn't wipe, but he always smelled like literal fesses. No one wanted to sit next to him. She tried really hard to be super kawaii and made everyone uncomfortable. Dude was walking through the school corridors constantly leaning against the walls. Sometimes he would sit quietly for a while, and then suddenly shout something like, blah 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 while stretching his limbs, looking like a starfish. Dude went completely bananas. Picking his nose in class until it bled and then refusing to use a tissue to hide it, wipe it up. As well as eating pencils and other things made of wood. Also, he did not have a TV at home. I'm not going to say his name, but part of his last name was Slut. That didn't help. Later found out that the eating wood thing is an actual real condition where people have some sort of vitamin or other deficiency that's made better by eating wood, somehow, and yeah, save the jokes that could come from that. It's called pica syndrome, I think. He's like a billionaire engineer now though. Not sure if he still picks his nose, eats wood, or doesn't own a TV, but when you're a billionaire I doubt it matters. So there's that. They put a plastic bag over their head and said they were a human condom. Trying to find myself in the comments. He had Down syndrome, but his parents refused to send him to a special school with proper guidance. He used to push people off the stairs and take his pants off in the sandbox. We as kids just didn't understand. He was called Mental Martin and he was your archetypical weird kid. Said weird things out loud in class, acted oddball all the time, did weird impressions of things like cheese and pregnant washing machines. Don't ask, it was weird. Last we heard of him was that he killed his mother a year or so after leaving school, but I'm not certain of the veracity of that. A fucking shotgun in his bag. He was obsessed with the USSR, would fake a strong Russian accent, wear a Rashanka, read books about communism and made an Instagram page dedicated to Slavs. First I thought this was weird, but as I got deeper into the meme community, I thought it was pretty epic. Also got into a lot of fights and shanked someone with a compass, been suspended probably 5+ times. He ran around like a hyped up Naruto. He pulled the legs off grasshoppers for fun and then eating the torsos. Okay, this is the only weird kid question I can find, so here we go. We had a student who obviously had some sort of mental illness that would normally put them in a special needs class, but for some reason he was allowed to be in our normal classrooms. Anyways, let's call him D. D. D is the shortest person our class at the time and he looked like he came straight out of a dog kennel. Everyone didn't think of him much at first, but then he started doing some stuff we thought we would never see happen. He thought he was different types of wild animals. He would hop like a frog, he jumped like 4 feet in the air while doing it too, and he was around that height. He would bark, meow, growl, and he would piss himself like once a week. The weirdest things he would do thought was that he would eat pencils. Like not when people get teeth marks in their pencils by biting them. He would physically eat them. One of our teachers got tired of it and took away all of D's pencils and told him that he would have to do the assignment another day. Well, what does he do? D bites a fucking chunk of the wooden table off in protest and then bites another student. After that I thought that he moved schools or became homeschooled because I didn't see him for the rest of the year. Then the next school year I find out that he was finally transferred to the special needs class. And all of this happened in middle school.